What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Unpopular Opinion. I am your host, Kyle Spencer, KOD X Factor, or Factor, as some of y'all like to call me. Thank you guys so much for joining us this week. We are a little bit on a kind of like a midweek type of deal. We normally record on a Monday. We are now recording on a Tuesday. Hoping to get all the episodes and all the stuff out before Thanksgiving next week. We will be out of town all weekend long and the beginning part of next week, so that's why we wanted to go ahead and just kind of do this show here and get this out and kind of call this, I guess, our Thanksgiving episode. So again, want to thank you guys so much for joining us. We had a great episode last week. The numbers are starting to really show it now. Sometimes I gotta do that just to kind of like slow my own brain down, just so I can freaking talk the way I need to. But thank you guys again for coming on back. We had a great episode. The numbers are certainly showing it from last week. The subscription numbers have increased. The viewer count on some of our topics that we had last week have kind of gone through the roof. We've had a lot of reaction to. We've had a lot of reaction to our Liza P review that we had last week. We had a lot of some sort of reaction to the segment that we had in regards to inclusion with the Miles Morales story from Spider-Man 2. We had a lot on that as well. So again, keep them all coming in, guys. Keep the suggestions coming. Keep the questions coming. I've got a couple of questions I will address here later on in the show. I'll probably say that more towards the closing part. A couple of questions that kind of came in I thought were pretty interesting. One of which is, how I kind of go about the recording and the actual review process of some of the games. I'll kind of go into that a little bit more detail towards the end of the show. I'll bring that up. But we got another exciting episode this week. First segment, again, is going to be what we've been playing. I finally have gotten to Lords of the Fallen. I will be able to finally touch on that. We finished Spider-Man 2. That is going to be our under review game for this week. I've got some kind of mixed feelings on it, but somewhat positive compared to some of the games I've done already. So we're going to be reviewing Spider-Man 2. We played a little bit more of Assassin's Creed Mirage. We played RoboCop, so I'm going to talk a little bit about RoboCop as well. I think that was a new game that we added since the last time that we talked, so I'm going to be talking a little bit about RoboCop in the first segment as well. And then segment number 2, we're going to get into what's been grinding my gears. Now, this week is going to be, I'm not going to say it's going to be different, but I wanted to touch on firsthand, and this is part of the reason why we recorded the show today and not yesterday, is because we were waiting for the Game of the Year announcements to come out from the Game Awards. And sure enough, they came out a little bit early in the evening yesterday. So it was kind of past the time that we started recording the show, so that's why we kind of let's just record the show today instead of yesterday. So I want to talk about the Game of the Year nominees from the Game Awards, and I knew they weren't going to disappoint. I was like, I knew this was going to cause a topic of discussion, and was I so right. They did not disappoint me in that aspect, so I certainly will be doing just that. I'm going to be going over the Game of the Year now, and it's probably going to take up most of that segment, but I also wanted to address something in much shorter context than I did last week. But last time we talked about the inclusion and how Insomniac kind of messed up the Puerto Rican flag by incorporating the Cuban flag, which I did go back and double check. They did fix. The patch did fix that. So that has all been addressed. Thank you, Insomniac, even though you fucked up to begin with. But I wanted to touch on what they did that they did not fix, and I don't know if they're going to, is the Hispanic or the Spanish language that they used for the Spanish dubs or the overlays, and the the translation that they had at the bottom of the screen. Yeah, like the subtext. I gotta address that. I should have addressed that in last, when I was talking about the inclusion, and when I was talking about the representation. Representation matters and how they messed up the flag. I need to talk about how they're changing, or that they made some changes to the Spanish dialogue of Spider-Man 2 to make it more quote unquote gender neutral. So I will be talking about that a little bit into segment number 2. Segment number 3 is obviously going to be our under review. We're going to be reviewing Spider-Man 2, and again, I'm not going to be spoiling, giving any of that away. I will talk about a little bit about that in segment number 1 as well, because that's what we've been playing. The majority of the week has been that and Lords of the Fallen. And then we're going to go into the closing, and I got a couple of questions that have popped up on like my Twitter timeline DMs that I will bring up. Even some of like the YouTube comments, we bring some of those up as well. So I will be bringing those up, and then we will be closing out the show and giving y'all a blessed Thanksgiving holiday. So, with that in mind, let's go right into this week's show, everybody. Segment number 1, what we've been playing. So let's take us a quick break, and we will gather our thoughts, and we will be right back. Welcome on back, everybody, to segment number 2 is what we have been playing this past, I guess, week and a half for me, because it's been about a week and a half since I last did one. It's been a lot, and I promised y'all from a number of weeks ago that I was going to get to Lords of the Fallen. I finally have done it. I got to Lords of the Fallen, and I gotta say, so far, I like it. I really do. Now, I'm comparing it to how the original Lords of the Fallen was as opposed to this one. So for those of you that do not know, Lords of the Fallen is a Souls-type game. It's one of the Souls-type games that does offer a couple unique differences and twists to the genre. How you can kind of go from the fantasy world to like the death world. You can kind of go in between the two. It offers some ways, almost like in a way like second chance offerings. So if you die, you kind of get a second chance because you get sent to what they call the Umbra world, but it's essentially like the death world. So like after you die, your spirit goes to this realm of the same world, but you can fight the same enemies. You see what I'm saying? So it's almost giving you almost like a second life bar if you die. I like that unique twist to it, and each world possesses something different. So each world is different in scope, it's different in like trajectory, how you can kind of maneuver through the different worlds. It reveals different shortcuts and secrets that you're not going to see in the fantasy world itself. I like that. I like how it does kind of interplay between the two, and the way that it makes this possible. And I haven't gotten too far into the story to kind of understand how the little lantern thing that he wears works, but it's a lantern you hold up that kind of shows you the spirit world, or the Umbra world is what they call it in the game. It's essentially like the spirit world. It kind of shows you. And it shows you paths that you may not be able to see while you're in the physical realm. So you got to hold up the lantern to kind of see what it's like in the spirit realm, and then you can see different paths that you can take. So, for example, you may be looking at an enemy that's like across the bridge, but there's like a big gap in between y'all. You're not going to be able to go there. There's no direct path to get to that particular enemy. But if you hold up your lantern and it shows you the spirit world, there may be a bridge like that crosses between the two that you don't see unless you go into that spirit world. Or if you're walking across the bridge, you can actually hold up your lantern, kind of aim it down like at the bridge, and then walk as you're holding the lantern up. But keep in mind, if you do that and you get hit, the lantern goes back, and then you fall to your death because you lost control of the lantern, which now you cannot see the bridge, and the bridge is physically not there in the realm that you're currently in, and you can fall and die. So it's always best to kind of go bring yourself into the spirit world, which you can bring yourself out of or in at any point throughout the game that you want. So you hold up the lantern. I think on PS5 it was the square button. You hold the square button, it brings you into the spirit world. You can go about and do what you want in that spirit world, and then you'll find like they're almost like little totems in different areas. Um, there's different totems that will bring you back out of the spirit world into the real realm, if that makes sense. So that's kind of like the different gameplay mechanics or elements that Lords of the Fallen brings to the Souls type genre that we've been accustomed to playing. And we just came off of playing like Liza P. And Liza P to me was like a perfect example of the Soulsborne type games done right. Now, Lords of the Fallen, it is a good game. It's a great game to play. I'm having fun with it. But there are some problems. Now, are the problems as prevalent as they were with the original Lords of the Fallen that came out on, was it PS4 and Xbox One, right? That game was a freaking disaster. It was not good. I think it bit off more than it could chew. And then when it came time to do this one, they kind of sat back and look. Okay, let's look at all the mistakes that we made. Let's try to fix our mistakes. Let's learn from what we did and make a true game that we wanted to set ourselves out to create. And I think overall, I think they did that. I think they created the game that they wanted to create. They had the tools necessary to do it, and it looks and it plays well. It looks and it plays very, very well. There are some things I do not like about it. So for example, the combat system, like the enemy lock-on mechanic, to me seems like it only works about half the time. And when you're in a crunch, when you got like 4 or 5 enemies coming at you, and you're trying to lock on to one of them just to kind of get your character's vision or view set a certain way, it only works about half the time. And I end up driving myself freaking crazy, and have died a couple times in that process. That it made it a headache for me. In some aspects, it really, really did. I can't say too much about the difficulty being extremely difficult, because it's not really a difficult game as far as like how the bosses work and the mechanics of the bosses and like learning their combos. Now the actual first world boss that you fight in that game, she was hard. Regardless, she was hard. So that required a little bit of a learning curve for me. It did require that, because she was a little bit tough, but that's kind of like your initial shock value type boss that you get, and you get that with any kind of Soulsborne type game that you play. You're gonna have that first world boss that's like a shock value to you. It's like, oh Lord, what do I got? What's coming next if this is what I'm starting with? And then you quickly realize that a lot of the bosses that follow from that point are not as bad. And that's very, very much so. Like here is your first world boss, and I'm not talking about like the tutorial boss, like the big guy you fight who later becomes like a normal type enemy to you. I'm talking about like I don't know what she's called. I don't remember her name. She's the one that upgrades your heals that you get throughout the world. And like in like the hub world, that's the one I consider like the actual first real world boss. Is her before you get to that central hub. So the bosses that seem to follow her are pretty easy. I mean, I say pretty easy, but like I didn't really struggle too much with them. I mean, I might have like died like once or twice to a few of them, but you quickly learn the mechanics of that boss. You learn how they fight, you learn everything else, and then it just seems like it's not that big of a deal. Some of the bosses are really, really slow. Some of the bosses have, very, very telegraphed attacks that it's easy to either dodge or block if you need to. So I can't say it's really, really difficult in that sense. What makes it difficult are some of the actual core game mechanics that can tend to make those fights a little bit harder than need to be. Now I'm kind of building like a pyromancy build, and if you're kind of going with like the strength type build, you're probably not going to have much difficulty early on, except for like I said, that first world boss. You're probably not going to have too much difficulty early on. If you're going with the caster build like I went with, I'm going with the pyro build, and the starting weapon for that took a lot for me to get used to, and then for me to find a pair of weapons that tend to work best for me took me, I feel like, a little longer than I was hoping for. I've already been through like 3 bosses before I finally settled on a couple of weapons that I'm actually doing okay with. I felt like I just wasn't doing enough damage, and the pyromancy spells that I'm using don't seem like they're doing enough damage. But then until you get to the point where you get your blacksmith and you can start upgrading, by that point, I didn't want to just start upgrading the first weapon that I started off with the game. I wanted to find something that kind of suited me more, and it took me to that point to finally get that. Whereas like a strength build, you kind of find those weapons pretty prevalent throughout, and it's easy to kind of transition and go from one weapon to another. Gives you a couple of different weapons to try. But as like a caster build, your stats only support a certain type of weapon. And in my case, it was the staffs and the spears or javelins that tended to work best for me. And until I found a couple of one-handed axes that work great for me, and they kind of scale with the stats that I'm putting in, which is incinerary. But I mean, overall, once it comes time for the review, I'm sure I'll probably have a lot more in depth with Lords of the Fallen. But what I can say is, yes, I am having fun with it. Is it a good game? Yes, it is. Is it worth the purchase? I'm gonna reserve my right to comment on that until I actually get ready to put the review out. I can say with certainty though that it is much better than the first one, or as some like to call it, the original, the first one that came out. It is much better and clearer than that one was. That one was just a disaster. This one, not so much. There's something there, and I'm like I said, I'm having fun with it. It's a lot. It does have a learning curve to it, so it's going to take you a little bit to kind of get used to, especially like the different world branches and the Umbra world and the fantasy world that you're kind of a part of. There is that mechanic you're going to have to learn and kind of get used to before it starts to really, really all click and start to make sense to you, if that makes any sense. All right, so the next game I want to talk about that we started playing, I'm not going to talk about Spider-Man 2 because we played a lot of Spider-Man 2 this past week, and I'll be able to talk a little bit more in depth about that when we do the under review section for it. But the other game I'll touch on is RoboCop, Rogue City, a game that has been delayed, I believe, a couple times, and has recently finally come out. Came out on all major platforms, and it's a game that to me has not been getting enough talk or buzz about it. Now, is RoboCop a fantastic game? No, it's got its flaws. It's not like above in the world like Game of the Year contender. But is it a good game? Is it a fun game to play? And more importantly to me, does it hold that nostalgia feeling from like the late 80s, early 90s film adaptations? What do we remember as RoboCop when we were kids? Some of y'all that are listening don't even know what RoboCop is. And that's perfectly fine. There hasn't been anything on TV or movie-wise or anything that should lead you to believe or understand what RoboCop actually is. We understand that. But for us, our generation, our age group, that kind of came up with RoboCop, the first, second, third movies, and then the disaster video games that followed since then. And then I think they even did a reboot movie, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like 20 years ago, something like that. Maybe like early 2000s, mid 2000s, maybe. They tried to reboot the movie, right? And that flopped. But the RoboCop Rogue City, and I believe it's only retailed at like 40 or $50. If it's retailed at $40, okay, it's worth it. Rogue City is actually pretty good. It holds that nostalgia feeling. It gives you that feeling of 80s, early 90s action film, um, dumb comedy, all kind of wrapped up into one game. And I think it does that extremely well. It puts you in the suit of RoboCop, to me, very, very well. It makes you feel like you are a 1,000-pound walking machine. Your game's not the game's not meant for you to kind of just run free willy nilly around the city and just be a freaking tank on wheel or tank on feet. It's not meant for that. It's meant to really, really kind of convey the world of RoboCop, which is essentially late 80s, early 90s, rugged, broken down Detroit city. And does it, I've had this question before. Does it take any of the elements from the movies and put them into the game? It does that immensely. The game takes place between the events of RoboCop 2 and RoboCop 3. Now, to me, RoboCop 1 and 2 were like the I won't say perfect. I don't want to say perfect, but they were like the go-to movies for me when it came to RoboCop. 1 and 2, I could watch those. 3, not so much. I think they kind of fell flat for me. Number 3 wasn't the greatest movie to me at all. I didn't really enjoy it. It might have had something to do with the fact that they changed like the main character, actual actor who played RoboCop. They changed him, or he didn't come back to reprise his role or something like that for the third movie, which sucked for me because now we're having to look and hear and listen to a different RoboCop. And that just kind of took us out of the story and the world of RoboCop back then. But they bring in many of the elements that we saw in the movies from then into now. And it kind of made it a little bit more relevant. But it still felt like that old school 80s, 90s, R-rated, over the top, stupid comedy action movie. And that's what you're getting here. That's exactly essentially what you're getting here. You're not getting an Oscar-worthy film, but you're getting a good dumb action movie. And video games are allowed to do that too. You're not going to get like a Game of the Year award nominee or contender, but it's cool to have like a little bit cheaper retail price, dumb good action game. There's nothing wrong with games like that. I think they actually serve a pretty good purpose. We need games like that to kind of counteract some of the really, really terrible games as opposed to some of like the really, really top Game of the Year contenders. We need those filler titles to kind of take us from one to the other. Because some of those great games, they don't come one right after another or straight like that. They don't come that quickly. Some of those games we may only get like 6 months apart. But we need something within that, within those 6 months to kind of transition us or take us to them. And RoboCop is one of those games. And I actually feel good enough that I'm going to say that we're going to do a review on that. Maybe not the next episode, but the episode within the next 2 episodes, we're going to do a review on RoboCop. Because it's not a very long game. I should be done with it here relatively soon. I did, like I said, when we finished up Spider-Man, I went right into Lord of the Fallen. And I got to talk about Call of Duty too. I wonder, should I do Call of Duty? Well, get back on topic. RoboCop. But we all need those filler type games, and I think this holds its place. I think this does it well This is a good what I like to call transition titles. I think this does. I think this does just that. So if you're looking for one of those dumb action games that's fun to play, RoboCop is a good game to look at. It's one of those kind of under the radar sleeper titles that no one's really talking about. That's fun to me anyway. Think of like Mad World that came out on the Nintendo Wii, the black and white bloody action game that was not like a game of the year contender, but it was a good, fun, dumb action game. And to me, I think that's what RoboCop is, and I think it holds it very, very well. So the last game I'm going to talk about, and then I'm not going to talk in depth about this. I'm going to talk just briefly on this until we get to the review of it, because I have a feeling this is going to be the next game that we do a review for. So it's probably going to be, we're probably going to do Spider-Man this week, we'll probably do Call of Duty next week, and then we'll do RoboCop the following week. Because I'm actually enjoying RoboCop. I want to kind of savor that as much as I can. Call of Duty is a fucking train wreck. I do not like the Call of Duty. I do not like it. I do not like the campaign structure of it. Lord knows, like the topic of install size for games like this, we're gonna save that for the next episode, because I want that to play into I want that to kind of play alongside my the grinds my gear and the under review segments. I want them to kind of play off of each other. So the under review segment is going to be Call of Duty. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, for those of you that are trying to figure out which Call of Duty I'm talking about. And the Grind My Gear is going to be talking about install sizes of some of these games and what I think Call of Duty needs to do going forward. How I think they're doing, how I think they're kind of on the right track, but not there yet. Now, as far as this actual release of Call of Duty, the Modern Warfare 3, and again, guys, listen to me when I say this. You cannot blame this on Microsoft. I've already seen people try it. Oh, Microsoft destroyed fucking Call of Duty. Microsoft had nothing to do with this Call of Duty, folks. It had zero to do with it. The only thing that have anything to do with it right now is they're going to make money back, make money off of that game now because the deal had finally closed and they own it. So they're going to get the paychecks for it. But they had nothing to do with the actual development of this game. This was all done by Activision prior to Microsoft's acquisition of Activision. So you cannot and do not blame Microsoft for Call of Duty. Modern Warfare 3 sucks. It's not good. The campaign is terrible. It felt extremely rushed, which it was, because I heard they only had like a year and a half of development time to get this whole thing done. So it felt rushed. It's not finished. It's unpolished. And the campaign structure is fucking lazy. The campaign structure for Call of Duty, the past Call of Duty's actually had like a valid campaign structure to it. And I'm just talking about campaign here right now. I'm not even going to get into the multiplayer part of it yet. I haven't really done much in the multiplayer. I haven't done much in the way of zombies. I heard zombies is actually fantastic, but how much more? I mean, can you really fuck up zombies though? With multiplayer, you can kind of fuck it up because it's essentially Modern Warfare 2 with Modern Warfare 3 paint on it. That's all it is. And that's going to go into our segment number 2 for next week. But I'm just looking at the campaign right now. Is lazy. All the campaign is Warzone DMZ missions with voice overlays. That's all it is. They give you the open world aspect of what the DMZ looks like in Warzone. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Warzone has a separate gameplay mode called DMZ where you and two teammates drop in and you do objectives and you fight off like enemies. Sometimes enemy waves. The campaign structure for Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 is just that. It's a cut, paste, with some voice acting overlays on top of it. That's all it is. Every mission has been like that. Every mission thus far. And I'm about I mean, hell, I've only played for like 2.5 hours, and I'm already a third way through the game already. Which leads me to believe that by 6 hours in, I should be 100% done with this shit. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 is this was a slap in the face. This was, the Bobby Kotick or Kotick, whatever the fuck his last name is. This is his last stand with Activision because he's gone at the end of the year. You know that, right? By January 1st, he's out of Activision. They've already signed away. They've already done part of the agreement. He's out the door. Thank God. That needed to happen many, many years ago. But this was bend over the table. Let me plug it from you from behind. Last stand by Bobby Kotick. Just to get that last bit of money in. Quick cash grab. Cheap on the financial side of it to develop. Because it was. Cut and paste. Use the same assets from before. And we're going to call it Modern Warfare 3. Absolutely abysmal. Lazy development. And I'm sure, and I know the developers that worked on this game, they knew that. You can't tell me there's not one developer on that team that said, what the fuck are we doing? And thank goodness for Microsoft and Phil Spencer coming in and taking over this. And I hope they listen to me when I say this. Call of Duty needs a reset. Call of Duty needs a timeout. That's what it needs. Call of Duty needs a timeout. Because it's drying up. But where I will say that Call of Duty has gone to, that I think is actually probably where it needs to stay, is how it's one base game, like one central hub, that holds all of your Call of Duty titles. You can pull it up right now. There's a Call of Duty hub. They call it the base game. It's just called Call of Duty. You pull it up, and it gives you the options for the different Call of Duty titles that are out there, and the elements that are associated with those titles. So if you own them, they are unlocked in that hub for you to play. So it's one central location for you to access all of your Call of Duty content. That, to me, was smart. That's what needed to happen. But here's where I think they need to kind of transition it to. Essentially, we paid $70 for Modern Warfare 3. And all we got was a 6-hour campaign. And it wasn't even a real campaign. Everything else was content packs for what's already currently available. If you look at the installs, if you go and actually look at the managed files underneath Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, when you pop that disc in, go to the managed files. Look at what it actually installed when you put that game in. There was the Modern Warfare 3 campaign. There was the Modern Warfare 3 multiplayer. And then there was content packs. 6 of them, I believe. Or was it 5? It's 5 or 6. 5 or 6 content packs to integrate and update what's already currently installed from previous versions. That's where I think they need to fix that shit, and they fucked up. It should be, you already have all the assets and everything for every Call of Duty thing. You want to do season passes and update the maps and stuff like that as we go, no problem with that. I think they were kind of on the right track when it came to Warzone anyway. Keep that up. Keep going with that. I have no problem with that. What I have a problem with is what you should be doing is saying, we're going to offer you a $20 upgrade every year, and you get the newest campaign that's out that we've been working on. Everything else stays the same, because obviously it fucking does. They're just content packs that are out there. Not even a gigabyte's worth of content packs, guys. I mean, we're talking about like maybe 100 megabytes for each one. So that's not a lot of work. It should be just, well, you can pay $19.99, $29.99 for the updated Call of Duty campaign and a whole slew of new multiplayer maps. I think you would be perfectly fine there, and you would probably make a killing off of that. but just keep everything on that one central hub like you have it now. But I will go into that a little bit more detailed when we actually get to the review for Call of Duty. But like I said, that's probably going to be next week. So yeah, let's be on the lookout for that. So that's what we've been playing this week. Let us take a quick break real fast, grab us something to drink, and then we are going to come back and get into segment number 2 of what really grinds my gears, folks. All right, everybody, welcome on back to segment number 2 of Unpopular Opinion. And now it is time to go into a segment that a lot of fans like to listen to and comment off of, or it seems like off of every single episode. As these are, and yes, these are my opinions only. None of those around me, none of those that are affiliated with me, none of those that are friends of mine, family, whatever. These are my opinions, okay? So if you're going to chastise anybody for his opinions, chastise me, please. I mean, I don't really care. Never going to care. That's perfectly fine. That's why I do it. Create that talk. Get the conversation started. And one of the reasons why I elected not to do the show yesterday, when we usually record on Monday, is because I was waiting for the Game of the Year nominees to come out from Jeff Keighley's Game of the Year Awards, his quote-unquote panel. I've been waiting for the nominees to get announced. And they got announced yesterday evening. And just like I predicted, it was going to be newsworthy. Or at least conversation-worthy. So here we go. Back on the old Jeff Keighley Game Awards type bullshit. Seems like we get every single year. Let me start off by saying this before I even give you the nominees. You know what? No, scratch that. Fuck that. Here, let me give you the Game of the Year nominees. This is what was selected by the committee for Game of the Year contenders for 2023. Mind you, we had a really, really good, solid year of gaming. Alan Wake 2. Resident Evil 4, the remake. Baldur's Gate 3. Super Mario Bros. Wonder. The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. And Marvel Spider-Man 2. Those are your 6 Game of the Year nominees. Now I'm going to ask you guys, did your contender make the list? Did a game that you felt should have made that list, did it make the list? The answer to a lot of y'all is no. Excuse me. Now that I've labeled the games that are out there that have been labeled as Game of the Year contenders, I gotta ask this question. I don't know who the fuck put Jeff Keighley at the top of the gaming world mountaintop to where he can kind of influence these decision makers and who he elects to have on these nominee boards to name these. Here's something I found out that I don't know if a whole lot of people know it. I know it. That there are video game journalists from corporate companies such as IGN, and we all know how my feelings are towards IGN, and actual game developer publishers themselves. First of all, there should be no committee that is to give out any kind of awards should have any representative from a video game developer or publisher should be on that board. That creates a biased atmosphere. And every year it seems like we get a biased atmosphere. Excuse me. It really does. Jeff Keighley, as nice as he may be in person, as nice as he may be presented to be on TV, I think is a dickweed. I can see through a lot of the fucking bullshit that he can kind of present to y'all on screen. I think he's full of shit. I think a lot of his shit that he does is created biasly. And to where he wants to be the creme de la creme of video game journalism. He's not, folks. Do you know who's on the mountaintop of the video game world? It's not any video game journalist. It's not even the video game developers. It's you. You are. You and me, us, as a fan base, are the ones. Now, think of it this way. Do you feel that it is fair that once this committee has selected the nominees, do you know how the voting process works? You can actually go online and submit your vote right now if you wanted to. But do you realize that your vote only counts for 10%? Whereas the video game media or so-called journalists and publishers equate to the other 90%. Those are facts. Your vote counts for 10%, which tells me that the video game media only gives a shit about our opinion, our 10% of our opinion. They don't give a shit. They follow the dollar. Wherever that trickles from, that's where they go to. The video game journalists and media, that's where it all trickles from. That's why I have never been a fan of video game media, video game journalism. I was a part of that world for a few years. But we were stand-up guys. Our small team. And it might have been like, 5, 6 of us? And one of those included RGT85. Some of y'all might not know that, but me and RGT85 actually go back way before then. Back to GameStop days. Ask him. I'm sure he'll love to fucking tell you about the GameStop days. We all have our stories from it. But we tried to do things uniquely different. And it didn't really catch on the way that we had hoped it would. And then a lot of the guys that were on those teams went off to do bigger and better things. I mean, RGT85 has got his own YouTube channel now. Has been doing exceptionally well. Proud of you, big dog. DJ, the Twitch streamer, influencer now. I've seen you on commercials and TV there, my bro. Hey, nothing but mad respect for what you guys do. Cam, I think you're still in the video game sector of it. I think you were on GameSpot there for a little while, which if there's any video game media that I actually would pay attention to, it was probably GameSpot, even though I haven't really followed them much here in like the past 10 years. Just to be honest. I get more of the truth, it seems, from watching y'all, the fans, and their YouTube experiences and their Twitch streams. That's the way of video game media today. If you want to find out the truth about what it really is, as far as somebody's opinion on a title, Watch them on YouTube. Especially if they're not being sponsored by one of these particular companies as it is anyhow. There's a few video game YouTubers and that I follow pretty religiously, and I watch them all the time, and I take what they say and their opinions about certain things more than I do anybody else's. You know, back in the day, it used to be all about like the magazine, the review score on games that you would see, cover stories, and then it started getting like really, really out of hand. Then we started noticing a lot of bias happening. It happened a lot back in the day, especially with Call of Duty. IGN is just notorious for it. IGN and a lot of other game companies like that, or media companies like that, are like, they're notorious for putting people on video games that don't even like or play those particular type of games. I remember hearing horror stories from guys that worked over at EGM back in the day of getting like boxes of games that they would have to take home and they would have to play through them, even though they're not fans of those particular games or genre. So do you not think that that's going to trigger some sort of a biased opinion on what they thought about the actual game when they played it? Of course it's going to. That's what video game journalism today, I don't even like to call it journalism, because it's not really journalism. Even journalists today, like you see like on CNN and Fox News and all that other shit, even them are like, they're getting worse and worse as the years and the days go on. But video game journalism has been bad for years and has gotten worse and worse, to the point that many publications have had to close their doors. Rightfully so. And the day and age of YouTube influencers has come to large. And I think that's where it needs to be, and it needs to stay. So when it comes to these video game awards, fuck Jeff Keighley. I don't care if he hears this. I don't care if he sees this. I think you're a douchebag. Like I said, I'm not talking about you like as a person on a personal level. I don't know you on a personal level. I'm trying to even remember if I've even met you before. I don't think I have. So I don't know you personally. I'm just going off of your arrogance when it comes to the video game market or the video game industry. You put yourself on this pedestal that's like above everybody else. You're not, bro. Like, you create like this board of electors of they're friends of yours. Like, you're not getting the actual, like, if you ask the fans to put together a top 6 list for Game of the Year contenders, and you picked the top 6 games percentage-wise that they selected, and you gave them the 90% vote, and gave yourselves the 10% vote, or hell, you could even do like a 70-30 split. But the fans should equate to more than half. At the very minimum, 70%. 70 to 90%. The fan vote should be. Why do you think nobody gives a shit about Grammy Awards anymore? Why do you think fans don't give a shit about Oscar nominees anymore? Fans are drawn more to award shows that they vote to hand out. It's their opinion that ultimately matters. It's not yours. You're within that industry. You're friends with a lot of these people. And you put them on higher pedestals than games that should have been. Like, for instance, what the fuck is Alan Wake 2 doing on there? Is it a good game? Yeah, it probably is. I haven't played it yet. I don't fucking know. Is it a Game of the Year contender? Absolutely not. Resident Evil 4. was a phenomenal game. I had a blast with it. Thought it was a great game. But it's a remake. I do not think remakes should get a nod for a video of the game or game of the year contender. I think that award should be handed to either sequels or new IPs. I think that's what it should be dealt to. If you're doing a remake off of a game that came out 10, 15 years ago, I don't think it deserves a nod. Now, if you want to create a separate category for games like that, that's fine. Go and do that. But if you're remaking a game that came out 15 years ago, 10 years ago, actually it was longer than that. Might have been like 15, 18 years ago, right? I don't think it deserves any kind of a game of the year contention. And then Alan Wake 2, I don't understand how that made it on there. Fine. You know, Legend of Zelda, I kind of had a feeling that was going to be... I had a feeling that was going to make it on there. I'm okay with that. Spider-Man 2... That one, I had a feeling was going to create some waves because it's already been kind of getting tossed around side to side, for games that follow a similar path as like the first one didn't really do much on the innovation side. But if that's the case, then you have to leave Mario Wonder off of there too, because that's essentially Mario Brothers Deluxe with a fresh coat of paint on it, though, right? It follows the same gameplay type elements, right? With a few tweaks here and there and some new superpowers. But it follows that same mold, right? So you can't play one against the other. Do I think Mario Wonder deserves probably a mention as far as a Game of the Year contender? Yeah, it probably does need to be up there. Spider-Man 2, great game. And I'll get more into that when I do the review for it. To me personally, I don't feel it's a Game of the Year contender. I would have probably put like the Final Fantasy 16 that came out this year. I would have probably put that in there. And I have to say this. I've seen mentioned this online a number of times already, and this is directed to Jeff Keighley as well. Since you have taken over, 11? Was it 2011? Either 2011 or it was 11 years ago. One or the other. It was one or the other. Since he's been in charge, there has never been a Game of the Year contender out of Microsoft's camp. None. Zero. Do I think Starfield should have probably made a mention in there? That one's probably a little iffy to me as well. But I would put that one on there before I put Spider-Man 2. At the same time, I would put Liza P on there. Liza P to me, I thought was a game probably worthy. I thought it was, to me personally, I thought Liza P was going to be like one of those sleeper titles that was going to sneak into the Game of the Year contender. And there's plenty of like High Five Rush that came out. That should have been nominated in there somewhere. But it wasn't even mentioned. Why, Jeff? Because it's a Microsoft title? Your unbiased is really, really you're not unbiased, but your bias is really, really showing. Your teeth are starting to show in that realm. You're a Sony dick rider. You have been for years. We know this about you. So you try to use your platform to discredit anything that they do. That's what I hate about this whole thing. I think the Game of the Year thing should be just done away with. It's turned into just this feeling of it's not trustworthy. It's not. I feel it's created like this toxic environment of friends just putting over friends. And the award shows every single year have been fucking just god awful. I've had better times watching like early 90s sitcoms TV shows than watching anything from the Game Awards year after year. It got to the point where they had to pull it pretty much off of TV because it wasn't getting any kind of traction on there. It wasn't getting any viewership. Nobody gave a fuck. He made it to where nobody gave a fuck. We today, as video game fans, sad to say, don't give a fuck. We actually prefer the Game of the Year contenders and announcements to come from different YouTubers and Twitch streamers that do this on a day-to-day. I'd much rather hear their opinions. I'll call Sean up right now and be like, hey, bro, what's your top 6 games of 2023? Let's see if it matches up with what mine is. And there's your Game of the Year award winners. Yeah, but they're ours. There's got to be a central platform for the fans to equate more to what the actual winners are than these so-called pricks. That's what it should be. This should be a fan vote thing, and fans' vote should account for more than 70% of the actual winners. The media votes should count for 10%. And how it's reversed and how their vote counts for 90% and the fans' vote counts for 10% is straight bullshit. That's horseshit. That's embarrassing. I mean, as a video game fan, you're basically telling me to go fuck off, that my opinion doesn't matter, when we're the ones that control fucking purchases of them. Without us, you guys don't even fucking exist. You don't. Without our money, you fucking tank. It's us that hold you guys above water, not y'all. How many fucking studios have had to close their doors year after year? It is us that buys your product. Yes, you guys create it. But we're the ones that buy it. We're the ones that offer our opinion. Our opinions are the ones that matter. They're the ones that sell. If you go into a game to create a game because it's a game that you like and the fans flock to it, that's a win-win. Game of the Year contender right there. But you're basically telling us to go fuck off because our vote doesn't fucking matter. That shit needs to be fucking fixed and addressed. Like, that's why E3 got so fucked up. E3's not existing anymore. And guess who took over that shit too? Jeff fucking Keighley. Well, we're not going to have an E3, so you know what? I'm going to do my own shit out here. I'm going to do it. I'm going to make it all for the fucking developer. No, the fuck you're not, bro. Shut the fuck up. Your summer game program shit is essentially like E3 done in the way that you want E3 to be done, and it's turned into fucking horseshit. It needs to go back to what it used to be, where the fans tuned in. It was the developers and the publishers that were there, and they talked to each other. And then the fans got a chance to play it towards the end of the week, or actually visit the show floor towards the end of the week, because it's ultimately our opinion that matters. Fuck the game journalist. Your opinions mean dick. And when it comes to award ceremonies, they should mean even fucking less. But I'd like to know your opinions. What do you guys think? Do you think I'm overreaching? Or do you think I'm kind of hitting it right on the nail right on the head? Do you think your vote should count more than fucking 10%? Or do you not really give a shit? Because ultimately it's going to be our dollar that pays the most dividends, right? It's us buying the product that's going to actually be the deciding factor. They can win Game of the Year all they fucking want to, but if we're not buying it, then obviously it's not something about the game that the fans don't like. Oh, Lord have mercy. All right, and the last thing I want to talk about, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this either, is what Insomniac did with Spider-Man 2 that I think was, what's the word I want to look for? Wrong? Kind of a little bit of hypocritical? Not really giving a shit. Now, we already touched on the fact of the Cuban flag being replaced, or replacing the Puerto Rican flag by somebody ignorant. And they have since then gone back and fixed it. And I did go back into the game just to verify that it did, and yes, it did. But the other thing I found out, and I'm mad at myself for not even touching on this last week when I was talking about this anyhow, was in the Spanish overlay, or the Spanish version, if you set the language to Spanish, they changed some of the language to fit gender neutrality. Now, what do I mean by this? Okay, so when you form a sentence in Spanish, there are certain words that have a feminine and masculine context to it. La, lo, un, una. The A at the end means it's a feminine form. O or un is a masculine form on the sentence. It's what helps form the sentence. They, when I say they, I mean Insomniac, changed it to there is no O or A. There is no more masculine and feminine connotations in sentences. They left out that letter and just cut it off there. So I was like, what the fuck is that? Like I listened to it. I was like, what the fuck is that? So they took away and the reason why they did it is, get this, is to be more gender neutral, to fit into what we as a society here in America seem to be doing more and more every single day. So Insomniac took it upon themselves to change the Spanish language, a language that's not even yours, a language you have no business even touching. You're going to change it to westernize it and to fit it into what our society is here today. I'm here to tell you, as a Hispanic American myself, you have no right to touch our language. You have no right to make any changes to it because you want to try to make it gender inclusive. So you want to change the entire language so it fits that narrative. Sorry. No, you do not. You do not touch it. And it's because of stupid shit like this that you're going to get fan backlash for it. And why I knock it off a couple points in the review. You don't get the right to do that. That is not for you to do. You are not the say all be all when it comes to languages being spoken. You don't get the right to make any changes to it. Now, some of y'all that have no idea what I'm talking about, don't understand it, that's perfectly fine. Stay in that realm where you don't understand it. I'm just telling you, as a Hispanic American, that I can understand the language and the dialect. You cannot change it to fit your narrative. If that's the case, can you explain to me, Insomniac? And I don't know how many of you fans out there actually know this, but can you explain to me why you're willing to do that? And in our version of the game, we get all the pride flags, you know, the gay relationships in the game. We get those storylines. We get all that. But in other markets where that's not really a thing, Well, that's not like a popular thing. You remove all that. You remove it all. Those scenes, those flags, that representation is literally deleted from the game. It is not there. You don't believe me? Go look at videos from different regions of Spider-Man, of the gameplay. It's not there. The gay quest line with the student from the university that Miles helps is not in the game. The fact that Black Cat said she was going to go help her girlfriend in another country, that's not in the game. You go over to that country for that particular game, it's reversed. They chose to do that so they can actually sell their game in those regions. They want to make money on it. And I guarantee you they probably didn't change the Spanish language over there to make it more gender inclusive. They're going to do that here, but then when they want to go sell that game into a different region, they axe all that. You can't have your cake and eat it too. And I heard Angry Joe say this on his review of the game, and I totally 100% agree. You cannot go out there and say that we are inclusive, we're doing all this to be inclusive, and then delete those segments from the game just so you can sell it in a different region. You either include it or you don't. You pick one or the other. You don't try to juggle between the two just because you want to make more money in certain regions and you want to be able to sell it in certain regions. No, you either do it or you don't. Show your cojones and actually do it. If you want to do it that way, then do it. And at the same time, you do not change the fucking Spanish language. You don't have that right. I don't care who you think you are or how much power you think you possess. You do not have that fucking right. That is not you. You're going to change the fucking language around so it fits your narrative and to be gender supportive. That's not that language. That's not how that language is done. So you're going to change up a whole fucking heritage? I don't think so. I'm surprised you haven't gotten more backlash for that particular shit. You seem to have gotten more backlash because of the fucking Cuban and Puerto Rican flag, rightfully so. But I think this kind of went a little bit more unnoticed because, I mean, in all honesty, who switches up the language to hear it in Spanish? Or when they want to read the subtitles, they put it in Spanish to kind of see what it has. And that's where fans started noticing the fuck up. Mainly from Spanish-speaking countries. I wonder who would notice that. You need to be like just taking the brass with this. I don't understand how you let this slide by. And I think because of shit like this, you don't deserve a fucking nod at the Game of the Year awards. And I'm going to get more into that on the review segment, on what my actual thoughts and feelings on Spider-Man 2. But you don't have that right. Stay the fuck out the language. You don't have that right or that audacity to even remotely think about doing something like that. And with that, I think let's get right into Spider-Man 2. I'm ready. I'm ready to go with Spider-Man 2. We'll be right back. Welcome on back, everybody. We are ready to delve into my review for the amazing or just Marvel Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac Games and Sony Publishing. Now, I want to get this off since we already got all the last segments off of my chest already in regards to a couple things that I thought about the game early on, especially in our early playthroughs and stuff like that. I talked a lot about it, but ready to kind of delve right into it. The meats and potatoes, the bones of Spider-Man 2 in its entirety. Now I'm gonna start off by saying this: I played Spider-Man 1 100% completion. I played Spider-Man Miles Morales 100% completion. Spider-Man 2 again 100% completion. And I've heard all the comments. I've heard everybody's comments. I've read everybody's reaction to it. I've read everybody's interpretation of certain things. And I don't take any of that into consideration when I start voicing my own opinions on these games. So I'm going into it on a fan perspective, not on a developer perspective. I go into it always with any of the reviews I do. I go in with that perspective in mind. So with that in mind, Spider-Man 2 doesn't hit on all cylinders when it comes to an actual gameplay and everything else. Yes, it does. It's a great game to play. Excellent. I think the fighting mechanics are spot on. The swinging mechanics have never felt more fluid. The world itself is vibrant. It's New York City. If you've never been to New York, and if you don't ever feel like you're going to be one of those that actually gets a chance to ever go to New York City, this is probably the closest you can get to it. This shows New York. Now, does it show all aspects of New York? Trust me, no, it doesn't. There's certain parts of New York you're just not going to get captured in the video game sense. Okay, but this gives you a broad stroke, a broad view of New York City. The world is alive. The world is vibrant. You feel the world alive around you as you're swinging through. Let's say you're swinging through downtown Manhattan. You're swinging through Manhattan. Manhattan feels alive. It feels vibrant. Even at nighttime, like the nightlife feels like it's there. You feel alive. They got the world right. The swinging mechanics have never felt smoother. They feel great. They're traversing the world, and that's what I feared, especially going into Spider-Man 2, is how is traversing the world of New York as Spider-Man going to feel? Is it going to feel like if I pull up the map and I have to swing all the way across New York City to get to my objective? Do I look at it like, oh fuck, I got to swing all the way over there? No, I'd literally just like, all right, cool, and start going. Because you never know what you're going to see. They provide different things for you to do and activities to do in between to keep you busy. And I'm always one of the proponents for doing everything 100% for a game like that. I do all the side missions. I do every activity that pops up as I can, because sometimes there's like more than one activity that presents itself at the same time. Of course, obviously, one of them's got to take a back seat. I always do every extra one of the side missions, every one of the extra activities that I need to do. I'm always like I want to unlock every single suit that's available to me. And a lot of those are going to be tied into the different side missions that you have to do throughout the game. So they offer you a pretty big abundance of side missions to do. Now, do some of those side missions really, really seem repetitive? Yeah, they really are. Like the Marco memories, they're all fucking repetitive as shit. The symbiote nests, they are all really, really repetitive too. There's really not much variation to any of them except for just the locale. You know, a lot of those missions, like the university ones that Miles has, those were different. You know, they're different things. The Spider-Bot missions were actually pretty fun for the most part because you literally got to hunt. You got to hunt for them. That felt cool to me. I enjoyed those. I like doing that. But like some of those missions, like the Marco missions, the Flame missions were different because each one was different. It was kind of going to a different story. It was going elsewhere. It was going elsewhere. It was doing more. That I liked those. But the Marco ones, the symbiote nests, those were all the same things, just in a different locale. The EMF environmental missions that Peter can do, they They were pretty much the same, except a couple of them had some variations to them. You know, okay, maybe you can get through with that, maybe. But a lot of the other missions, like the Prowler missions that Miles had to do, it was the same thing, just in a different locale. It's really the same thing over and over again, just kind of cut repeat in different parts of the city. And that's where it started to feel a little bit more redundant. Like I would go, because, you know, again, I'm a completionist. Like, I don't want 100% everything. And I'm looking at the map and I'm like, all right, I got to go do this. I'll swing over there. I'll go do this. I already know what to expect. It's the same fucking thing that I just did before. And I was on the trajectory where I actually did all the side stuff before I even got 50% through with the story. I was done with all that stuff. Until, like, you know, newer stuff like the symbiote that's unlocked as you get a little bit later into the story. Those unlocked, and then I went and did all them. I wanted to knock all that stuff out. And if you do it that way, you can actually unlock every suit gadget, every regular gadget, and every skill upgrade for your character, Miles, and the two of y'all combined. You should be able to unlock all those with no problem. It maxes out at level 60. And I was maxed out at level 60 before I even went into the symbiote storyline when Harry gets the symbiote back. Spoiler warning. So I'm gonna try not to go into. I'm gonna try not to get too spoiler heavy, but I think most of us already kind of know the direction that the story went. And that was another problem I kind of had with it. Not so much as I'm not going to use this more like as a critique. I'm not going to have this kind of count towards like points off for my score of the game. But I did not like the route they went with the symbiote and Harry being the first and major host of Venom and not Eddie Brock. I did not like that part of the story. And I think the direction they're kind of going towards, you can kind of tell they're bringing Green Goblin into it, and eventually Hobgoblin's going to make his debut. But I don't recall. I mean, maybe I'm completely wrong, and I have no idea. But I follow comic books pretty heavily, and I don't remember a storyline where Harry got the symbiote and became Venom, as we know Venom is today, before he got the Hobgoblin, or even before Norman got his abilities. I don't remember any of that stuff taking, and I discredit and I discount the movies altogether. I'm going just solely off of the books. I don't recall any of that. I could be wrong, but I don't think so. And that's kind of like where I had a little bit of a story. They kind of tweaked their story a little bit to kind of fit, I guess, the direction they wanted to go story wise. Which, if that's the case, you know, okay. You know, if that's what you want, okay. Does it make for an intriguing storyline? It made it interesting. I like some of the things they did with the story. But the one thing I did not like is I felt that going into the game, I felt that Kraven should have been the main draw villain-wise for the game. And the way it felt to me was midway through development, they said, we got to incorporate Venom. Let's incorporate Venom into this game. I think that would do a lot more. Because it felt midway through the story that Venom started to take more of a priority. And then by the end of the game, he was the priority. And that completely overshadowed Kraven. Where Kraven didn't even feel really like a villain to me. It felt, by the end, I felt sorry for him. When he should have been like the main villain draw for this title. They could have flushed out the Venom storyline across a couple different games. You could have even done like a DLC story attachment with this game to flush out more Venom story. I think they did too much. I think they tried to do too much. They threw too much into the pot, and it did not mix very well. Kraven felt like a pointless throwaway villain. And how you kill off many of Spider-Man's main villains off screen is mind-boggling to me. We saw none of that. Like you throughout the course of the game, you see villains that Spider-Man had, Kraven hunted and killed off. You don't know how, you don't know why, you don't know where. You just know that they are dead. They're gone. Only like one or two do you see actually escape out because you helped them. But what about all the other ones? You just see the remnants of them. I don't like that part of it either. It felt like it was just too much. Too much of it got in the way, and that's what, to me, that's what ruined the story for me a little bit. It wasn't so much of like some of the direction they went as far as like the Venom character and stuff like that. I just felt that they could have done more with the story if they went one direction instead of multiple. And I'm not even going to get into the development side where we've already discussed the things that they did wrong as far as like the Hispanic stuff with the flag representation and the subtitles and the Spanish language overdubs and how messed up I think they were. We all know that to be true. And that, I'm not going to just go bear repeating any of that because you can go back and listen to some previous segments on my thoughts and opinions on that. But is that dock him a good point for that? Yeah, because that's just inexcusable. I'm sorry, it's just inexcusable. They're going to get points knocked off for the story. The fight mechanics, perfect. The city feels alive, vibrant, perfect. I love that. The other thing I did not care for too much in this game was the Mary Jane Watson taking over her role in certain parts of the story. Because it kind of sucked it out of me. Like, for example, when she has to go get the alien rock and Spider-Man's having to take Venom away from that area. And then Miles is left to fight off the other symbiotes that are out there. I wanted to play more as Spider-Man trying to traverse the city while Venom is giving chase. I didn't want to have to play Mary Jane Watson going to get the freaking rock and then coming back out. That felt like a wasted opportunity to me. You could have done more with that particular part. I would have rather even played as Miles fighting off the waves of freaking symbiotes. But I would have much rather been Peter Parker going through New York City trying to get away from Venom who's giving chase. I would have just much rather have done that with those parts. And for that, that's got to knock it off a good point. So, was it really, really good? Spider-Man was good, yes. Was it better than the first? It might be about even with it. What I was kind of hoping with Spider-Man 2 was they were going to add a co-op ability to the game. I think that was another big missed opportunity that I don't know if they just didn't have time to, or they couldn't figure out how to make it work story-wise. With something like that, I would have tried to make that work out story-wise. You can make that work out. But I think having one player take on the role of Miles, the other one take on the role of Spider-Man, I think was a big missed opportunity and could have probably paid dividends and been enough to kind of put this game forward more than it has been. So overall, my score and opinion on Marvel's Spider-Man 2 from Insomniac Games, I'm giving a 7 out of 10. It's a good game. You know what? 7.5 because it's slightly above average. But would I put this into the Game of the Year contender? No. I think there's other contenders out there that were better, that did better. But yes, it was a good game. I had fun with it. I think the main story to me it wasn't that long. If you went through like my son did, you can be done with the game in a day and a half. If you just did straight through the main story, and he did the complete main story and very, very little of the side missions, and was 50% complete with the game. I took the extra couple days and did all the extra side missions and stuff. But 7.5 out of 10, that is my score for Spider-Man 2. Let me know your thoughts and opinions in the comments below and what you guys thought. And when we come back, we will go into our closing and a couple questions from you guys online. Stay tuned. Welcome all back, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of Unpopular Opinion. It's been it's never stressful, but it's been an eventful episode. I've had a lot of pent up frustrations over the last couple of days, and it seems like it's come out in those past two segments. It always seems to come out like segment number 2. Maybe that's why it's like the most popular. But anyhow, I did get a question submitted online. Sent directly to me through X, asking me how about I go, and just kind of go right into the second question, which came off of a YouTube comment. But the first question is how I go about actually recording the show. Is the show, I really don't have any kind of set outline. I tried to do an outline on the first episode, and I completely veered off of that outline. So since then, I had never done another outline for it. I kind of jot down the topics that I'm going to go into. I'll have those outlined as far as the general topics, but as far as like what I'll actually talk about and discuss in those topics are vastly different. A lot of that's completely off the top, which goes right into the second comment I got off of a YouTube video. Was like, especially when it came to the reviews, going about doing the reviews. And when I do the videos, while sometimes it's some pauses in between some certain sentences and stuff like that, it's because I'm mainly collecting my thoughts. Every review that I do, and every segment that I do, but every review that I do, nothing is written down. I do not write anything down. I don't write down any comments. I don't write down any particular views. I don't put no structure to it whatsoever. Everything I do or I say is completely off the top of my head. Everything is completely improv. Because, and the main reason why I do it that way, because I've heard people ask me, well, why don't you just write them down? You can actually probably do a more concise review. My older under-reviewed videos used to be that. I used to write them all out, and then I would go through and do the review, and just pretty much, it felt really, really robotic to me. I felt like I was reading a script, and I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to feel like I'm reading a script. I wanted to give you guys my thoughts and opinions on certain games and certain aspects of those games, like just fresh, vibrant. I want it to come straight off my head. My thoughts, as they pop right out my mouth. That's how I want it to be. I don't want no filtered, let me think about what I say before I say it. I want to say it how it comes into my mind. If that's what I say in the review, that's the thought that just came in. Trust me. Those are legit thoughts. Those are legit feelings towards certain aspects of the game and the gaming industry and segments that I have. All of it is. And that's why I do every segment the way that I do it. Because I want to be able to present to you guys a fresh perspective. Everything's going completely off the top. So that way you know it's my legit feelings. It's not something that I took a day or two to think about and then write out how I wanted to say things, but I want to say it in a certain way. No, I want you guys to get the unfiltered me. That's why I have the show, Unpopular Opinion. It's unfiltered factor. Some of y'all are probably thinking to yourself, oh shit, Like, do we need an unfiltered factor? Yeah, in some aspects you may be right. You listen to some of those segment number 2s that I have up on the channel, you're probably thinking to yourself, who the fuck let this guy unplug? But that's honestly, that's me. That's who I've always been. That's where I always will be, especially when it comes to the video game industry. I'm unfiltered. I'm unplugged. If you don't like it, that's fine. You don't have to. I'm not asking you to. You know, if you're one of those that's not going to like it, I'm not asking you for your subscription. I only want people to follow and subscribe to me, the ones that share my thoughts and opinions, and ones that I can either relate to or you relate to me, one or the other. We share we share opinions. That's what I'm trying to gravitate more towards, which is perfectly fine. So that's the reason why I do those reviews the way that I do them. I want them unfiltered. I want you to get the real, legit factor, not something that's pre-written. So I hope that answers your question or any comments that you guys might have in that regard. But again, thank you guys so much for your support. For those of you that have come to the channel, all of those subscribers that we've gained over the past good month or so, I really, really appreciate it. I appreciate all the views online. I appreciate all the comments, everything else. I appreciate all that. Keep them coming. We want more and more of y'all to come in. We want y'all to kind of be more and more. Give me your comments. Give me your suggestions. Anything you guys could possibly think of. I can't wait. I can't wait to read them. I want to know your thoughts and opinions on certain things. If you feel the same way that I do, voice it. Let me know. Cool. We'll keep going. We'll keep pushing from there. But I appreciate it, guys. I really, really do. And from all of us here, we enjoy doing this. We're going to continue to do that for as long as we possibly can. Now, next week, what do we got coming up? Well, next episode. I'm not going to say next week because next week's Thanksgiving, so we're not doing an episode next week. But the week after that, I think we are doing an episode. We're coming back right off of the Thanksgiving break. You got a birthday this weekend. We're going to be gone out of town all weekend for that. Your birthday is on early next week, and then we got Thanksgiving late week. So we got an eventful week coming up. So we're going to be quite busy. But game-wise, we've got Super Mario RPG. I'm probably going to have the review for Modern Warfare 3 out. We'll probably talk a little bit more. Hopefully we'll be finishing up a RoboCop as well. I'm going to be diving more into Assassin's Creed Mirage. And I'm trying to think, is there any other... the Metal Gear Solid collection, I'm going to get a full, firm grasp on as well. And I'm going to dive into Alan Wake 2. So I got a lot lined up on the docket. I got Walking Dead Destiny's coming. And I think I want to say there's one more, maybe Naruto. That's more of like your speed though. You're more into that. I'm not. So I mean, I'm not going to review it just because it's not like my genre of game. That's not really what I'm into. But you do. You are. So I'll take into account your opinions on it. How about that? But again, thank you guys so much for coming. We hope to see you guys on our next episode. Thank you guys again. And until next time, everybody, I am KODX Factor, Kyle, some of y'all like to call me. And until next time, everybody, game on.